There are people listening to this who have done everything they know how to do, prayed every prayer they know how to pray, and still wondered why resistance seemed to follow them everywhere. You were faithful but misunderstood. You were obedient but delayed. You were sincere but overlooked. And quietly, without announcement, God was watching how you responded when favor was absent, because how you walk without favor determines how you will carry it when it arrives. God does not surround careless hearts with favor. He surrounds prepared ones. And you have been prepared in silence, in endurance, in restraint, and in trust when no reward was visible. Favor is not luck. Favor is alignment. Favor is when heaven decides that what resisted you yesterday will recognize you tomorrow. Favor is when battles end, not because you fought harder, but because God stepped closer. And when God steps closer, opposition loses its authority. There are doors that have stayed closed, not because you were unworthy, but because the timing was holy. God was not denying you, He was positioning you. When favor surrounds you, you no longer chase opportunities. Opportunities find you. Conversations shift. Decisions tilt in your direction. Systems that once ignored you begin to make room for you, not because you demanded it, but because God orchestrated it. Some of you have been praying for change, but God has been preparing you for favor. And favor is heavier than change. Change can be temporary, but favor leaves a mark. Favor alters how you are perceived, how you are received, how your presence is interpreted. When God surrounds you with favor, people cannot fully explain why they trust you, why they want to help you, why they feel compelled to open doors for you. They will call it instinct or coincidence, but it is neither. It is the invisible hand of God shaping outcomes before you arrive. Do not underestimate what it means to be surrounded. Favor in front of you opens doors. Favor behind you closes threats. Favor above you releases protection. Favor beneath you stabilizes your steps. When God surrounds you, even your mistakes are intercepted by mercy. Even your delays are redeemed by purpose. Even your weaknesses become places where God's strength is displayed without your effort. This is not the season to shrink back or speak small words over your life. What you say now matters. How you see yourself now matters. Favor responds to expectation, not arrogance, but holy confidence. The confidence that says, if God has brought me this far, He did not bring me here to abandon me. There are those who feel unqualified for what God is about to do, and that feeling is not disobedience, it is honesty. But hear this clearly, God has never surrounded the qualified with favor. He surrounds the yielded, He surrounds the obedient, He surrounds those who know that without Him they are nothing, and because of Him they can stand in rooms they never imagined entering. Favor does not exalt pride, it exposes grace. When favor surrounds you, your life becomes a testimony without your effort to explain it. Some of you have been under spiritual resistance that made no sense. You weren't attacking anyone. You weren't competing. You were simply trying to live faithfully, and yet resistance followed you. That resistance was not random. It was evidence that what God placed inside you carries weight. Resistance often appears right before favor breaks through, because opposition senses what is coming before you do. Do not be discouraged by what tried to stop you. Be encouraged that it failed. You are still standing, you are still breathing, you are still believing. And that alone disqualifies the enemy's plan. God is about to change how long things take. What once required years will begin to require moments. What once demanded effort will begin to flow. This does not mean there will be no responsibility, but it does mean there will be grace on your responsibility. You will notice that the same actions produce different results. The same prayers feel heavier. The same steps carry more impact. That is favor activating around you. When favor surrounds you, time bends. Delays collapse. Momentum accelerates. Be careful in this season not to speak from old wounds. Do not let past disappointment narrate your future. Favor requires a renewed mind. You cannot carry tomorrow's blessing with yesterday's vocabulary. Speak life even when you feel unsure. Speak trust even when your emotions hesitate. God is not asking you to pretend. He is asking you to agree. Agreement with God is powerful. Agreement aligns heaven and earth in your direction. There are people who will be surprised by your elevation, and some will struggle to adjust. Do not harden your heart. Favor is not a weapon, it is a responsibility. When God surrounds you with favor, He entrusts you with influence. Influence must be carried with humility, gratitude, and awareness that it came from God alone. You did not earn it, you steward it, and if you steward it well, it multiplies. This is not the season to rush ahead of God, but it is also not the season to hesitate when He nudges you forward. Favor often comes disguised as an invitation that feels intimidating. A door opens and you wonder if you belong there. Let God answer that question. If He opened it, you belong. If He positioned you, you are authorized. Do not disqualify yourself when God has already qualified the moment. Something is lifting off your life even as you listen. A heaviness you thought was permanent is loosening its grip. God is not removing you from every challenge, but He is removing the weight of constant struggle. You will still walk, but you will walk lighter. You will still build, but you will build with help. You will still believe, but belief will come with confirmation. Favor does not eliminate faith, it rewards it. And hear this clearly, favor does not mean absence of opposition, but it does mean opposition no longer has the final word. God's word outranks resistance. God's promise outruns delay. God's presence overrides fear. When God surrounds you with favor, He does not just change outcomes, He changes identity. You will begin to see yourself as someone God trusts, someone God uses, someone God positions intentionally. There is a sacred adjustment happening within you, even if you cannot yet name it. God is refining your discernment so you can recognize favor when it arrives without confusing it for coincidence. Many miss their moment not because God did not act, but because they were not attentive when He did. Favor often announces itself subtly at first. A shift in tone, an unexpected openness, a sense of peace where anxiety once lived. These are not emotional fluctuations, they are spiritual signals. God prepares the heart before He rearranges the world around it. You are entering a season where obedience will feel less like strain and more like flow. This does not mean the path will always be easy, but it does mean you will sense God's cooperation with your steps. When you move, He moves. When you pause, He protects. Favor creates harmony between heaven's timing and your action. That harmony is precious. Guard it. Do not rush decisions just because opportunities appear quickly. Favor does not pressure, it confirms. It brings clarity, not confusion. If something demands fear to sustain it, it is not from God. There is also a cleansing happening. Relationships, habits, and thought patterns that cannot survive where you are going are quietly losing their hold. This is not loss, it is alignment. God will not surround you with favor and then leave distractions in place to dilute its impact. Some connections will fade without conflict. Some desires will lose their urgency. You may grieve what ends, but you will soon understand why it could not continue. Favor requires space. God makes that space with precision and care. Understand this. Favor does not always elevate your position immediately. Sometimes it elevates your perspective first. You will begin to see beyond the moment, beyond the offense, beyond the delay. You will respond with wisdom instead of reaction. This inner elevation is protection. When God surrounds you with favor, He also surrounds you with discernment, so you do not sabotage what He is building. Your restraint in this season is as powerful as your action. There will be moments when you are tempted to explain yourself, to defend your path, to justify your progress. Resist that temptation. Favor speaks for itself. God does not require your argument to validate His work. Silence, when guided by wisdom, becomes a testimony. Let results answer questions. Let peace silence doubt. The God who lifts you knows how to keep you. Pay attention to how your prayers are changing. They are becoming less desperate and more declarative. Less about survival and more about alignment. This shift is not arrogance, it is maturity. You are learning to trust God's character, not just seek His intervention. Favor rests on trust. When you trust God, you stop grasping. And when you stop grasping, your hands are free to receive. There will be tests in this season, not to disqualify you, but to stabilize you. God will allow moments that require patience, integrity, and humility, even as doors open. These tests are anchors. They ensure that when favor expands, your foundation can support it. Do not resent the testing. It is evidence that God intends this season to last. Temporary blessing requires little preparation. Sustained favor requires depth. You may notice that people respond differently to you now. Some will feel drawn without knowing why. Others may feel unsettled, even resistant. Do not personalize either response. Favor reveals what is hidden in others, just as it reveals God's work in you. Stay grounded, stay kind, stay focused. Your assignment is not to manage reactions, but to remain faithful. There's also a restoration of joy taking place. Not loud joy, not performative joy, but deep, steady joy that does not collapse under pressure. This joy is a sign of favor. It means your spirit is no longer fighting against God's process. It means you are learning to rest while moving forward. Joy strengthens discernment. Joy sharpens obedience. Joy keeps favor from becoming burdensome. Do not underestimate the power of gratitude in this season. Gratitude keeps your heart aligned with the source of favor. It reminds you that what is happening is not self-generated. Gratitude protects you from entitlement and keeps wonder alive. Speak gratitude often, not as ritual, but as recognition. Every open door, every moment of peace, every answered prayer, acknowledge God. Favor responds to honor. Some of you are stepping into environments where you once felt invisible. Now your voice carries weight. Your presence influences outcomes. This shift may feel uncomfortable at first. You may question whether you belong. Let God answer that insecurity. He does not surround people with favor to embarrass them. He does it to position them. Stand where He places you with quiet confidence. You do not need to dominate. You need to remain aligned. There will be moments when you are tempted to look back, to measure how far you have come, to replay old battles. Reflection can be healthy, but do not linger. Favor pulls you forward. God is more interested in where you are going than where you have been. The past has already served its purpose. It shaped you. It taught you. Now release it. Carry only the wisdom, not the weight. Be mindful of how you speak about yourself. Favor surrounds identity before it surrounds circumstances. Words shape awareness. Speak with humility, but not with diminishment. You are not overstating God's work when you acknowledge growth. You are honoring it. Do not confuse humility with self-erasure. God does not require you to disappear for Him to be glorified. He is glorified when His work in you is evident. You are also entering a season where generosity will matter more than accumulation. Favor flows through open hands. This is not about excess, it is about stewardship. When God sees that what He places in you can move through you, He increases it. Generosity keeps favor circulating. It keeps the heart soft and the vision clear. There may be moments of sudden acceleration, things happening faster than expected. Prepare your spirit now. Do not panic when momentum increases. Favor often arrives with speed after long waiting. Trust that God accounted for this pace long before you experienced it. Stay prayerful. Stay attentive. Speed without discernment can disorient, but speed with God becomes powerful. As favor surrounds you, you will also notice an increased sensitivity to God's presence. What once felt distant now feels near. This intimacy is not accidental. God draws close to those He entrusts with influence. Stay close. Protect that nearness. Do not trade it for noise, distraction, or validation. Presence is the source. Favor is the overflow. And hear this with clarity. This season is not fragile. It is established. God is not experimenting with you. He is fulfilling intent on. What He begins, He sustains. What He opens, He guards. You are not walking into uncertainty, you are walking into preparation fulfilled. Even now, things are aligning beyond your awareness. Conversations are being influenced. Decisions are being softened. Paths are being cleared. You do not need to manipulate outcomes. God is already ahead of you. Walk forward with trust. Walk forward with reverence. Walk forward with expectancy, because favor is not merely approaching you, it is surrounding you. And when God surrounds, nothing can penetrate that He does not allow, and nothing He allows can stop what He has ordained. There is a quiet confidence God is placing within you, not the kind that needs applause, but the kind that remains steady when no one is watching. This confidence is not rooted in outcome, but in assurance. You are beginning to know, not hope, not wish, but know, that God is active in your life. That knowing changes how you wait, how you speak, how you endure uncertainty. Waiting no longer feels like being forgotten. It feels like being positioned. Silence no longer feels like absence. It feels like instruction forming beneath the surface. God is teaching you how to carry favor without rushing to prove it. Many lose what God gives because they expose it too early, speak it too loudly, or lean on it too heavily. Favor must mature. It must settle into your spirit before it reshapes your surroundings. This is why God has slowed some things down, even while accelerating others. He is balancing your outer movement with inner depth. What He is doing in you must be strong enough to sustain what He is about to do through you. You may notice that certain fears no longer have the same voice they once did. They try to speak, but they no longer command. This is not because circumstances have fully changed, but because authority has shifted within you. Fear loses its grip when favor surrounds you, because fear feeds on uncertainty and favor brings assurance. You are learning to move forward even when every detail is not revealed. That is faith becoming embodied, not theoretical. There will be moments when God invites you to step into responsibility that feels heavier than before. Do not interpret this weight as pressure. It is trust. God entrusts weight only to those He knows will not collapse under it. Responsibility carried with God does not crush, it strengthens. You are not being burdened, you are being fortified. Favor does not remove responsibility, it sanctifies it. Some of the greatest shifts will happen internally, unseen by others. Old insecurities will lose their urgency. Old comparisons will lose their power. You will stop measuring your progress against others and begin recognizing your own unique timing. Favor clarifies calling. When you know where God has placed you, distraction loses its appeal. You stop chasing what looks impressive and start honoring what is purposeful. There will be moments of stillness when nothing appears to be happening, yet everything is aligning. Do not interrupt these moments with anxiety. Stillness is not stagnation, it is calibration. God often does His most precise work when you are quiet enough to sense Him. Trust the unseen. Trust the process that does not announce itself. Favor does not need spectacle to be effective. You are also being taught discernment in blessing. Not every opportunity is an assignment. Not every open door is meant to be entered. Favor gives options, but wisdom chooses direction. Ask God not just for expansion, but for clarity. Clarity preserves peace. Peace confirms alignment. If something disrupts your peace, pause. Favor does not drag you away from God's presence, it draws you deeper into it. Notice how your appetite is changing. You are no longer satisfied with shallow reassurance or borrowed conviction. You desire substance, truth, depth. This hunger is not random. God is increasing your capacity. He feeds hunger He intends to fill. What you crave now aligns with where He is taking you. Honor that hunger. Let it guide you toward growth, not noise. There will be moments when you are misunderstood, even in favor. People may question your rise, your calm, your confidence. Let them. God does not require universal understanding to validate His work. Favor does not seek permission, it moves by assignment. Stay rooted, stay gentle, stay firm. You do not need to correct every assumption. God will clarify what matters in time. As favor surrounds you, your sensitivity to integrity will sharpen. You will feel conviction more quickly, correction more clearly. This is not condemnation, it is refinement. God protects what He values. When He corrects you, it is evidence of closeness, not distance. Respond quickly. Adjustment now prevents pain later. Favor thrives in humility. You may find yourself revisiting old dreams with new eyes. What once seemed impossible now feels attainable, not because you are stronger, but because God is nearer. Some dreams were delayed not because they were wrong, but because you were still becoming. Now, you are equipped differently. You think differently. You trust differently. Favor brings readiness into alignment with vision. Do not fear the unknown ahead. God has already gone there. The path may unfold step by step, but it is secure. You are not walking blindly, you are walking by trust. Trust does not require full visibility. It requires faithfulness in the step you are given. Take that step. Favor meets obedience with confirmation. There will be moments of gratitude that catch you off guard. Moments where you realize how far you've come without realizing it. Let those moments strengthen you. Let them remind you that God has been consistent even when progress felt slow. Reflection becomes fuel when it leads to thanksgiving, not regret. You are learning to rest without guilt. Rest is no longer avoidance, it is alignment. God is teaching you that productivity does not define worth, presence does. When you rest, you declare trust. When you trust, you allow God to work beyond your effort. Favor multiplies when striving ends. and understand this deeply. Favor is not fragile. It does not depend on perfect conditions or flawless execution. It rests on God's faithfulness. You will make mistakes. You will misstep. But favor surrounds you, intercepting failure with grace, redirecting misalignment with mercy. This does not excuse carelessness. It empowers resilience. Your life is becoming a quiet testimony. Not loud, not forced, but undeniable. People will notice the steadiness, the peace, the momentum. They may ask questions, answer with humility. Let God remain central. Favor is not about drawing attention to yourself. It is about revealing what God can do with a willing He. RT. You are not late. You are not behind. You are precisely where preparation meets promise. What God is releasing now is not rushed. It is ripe. Receive it with gratitude. Steward it with wisdom. Protect it with obedience. Because this season is not about survival. It is about alignment fulfilled. And favor is not merely touching your life. It is encircling it, guarding it, and guiding it forward with divine intention. There is a strengthening of your inner life taking place that will soon become evident in your outer world. God is deepening your roots, so that when favor increases, you remain grounded. Shallow roots cannot sustain heavy blessing. That is why this season has required patience, reflection, and quiet obedience. You were not being delayed, you were being anchored. What is anchored does not topple when winds rise. Favor rests securely on those who are rooted in truth, not driven by impulse. You are also learning how to listen more than you speak. This is not silence born of fear, but silence shaped by wisdom. God is sharpening your spiritual hearing so that His direction becomes clearer than every other voice. When favor surrounds you, discernment becomes essential. Not everything that looks good is God, and not everything that feels challenging is resistance. Some challenges are invitations to grow. Some comforts are distractions. Your ability to distinguish will protect what God is entrusting to you. There will be moments when God asks you to trust Him beyond logic. Favor often contradicts past patterns. What once required effort may now require surrender. What once demanded strategy may now require stillness. This shift can feel unsettling if you rely on control, but freeing if you rely on God. Let go of the need to manage outcomes. God's wisdom surpasses your planning. Favor flows most freely where trust is highest. Notice how your emotional responses are changing. You recover more quickly. You are less shaken by criticism. You are less intoxicated by praise. This emotional stability is a sign of maturity. God is teaching you to remain centered regardless of external fluctuation. Favor does not amplify emotion, it stabilizes it. You are becoming someone who can carry blessing without being consumed by it. There will be opportunities to compromise integrity in subtle ways. Shortcuts that promise speed, choices that offer comfort at the cost of alignment. These moments are pivotal. Favor is not sustained by convenience, it is sustained by faithfulness. Choose what honors God, even when no one is watching. These unseen decisions fortify the favor surrounding you. What you protect privately, God will defend publicly. You may find yourself drawn to simplicity. Excess no longer satisfies. Noise no longer entertains. You desire clarity, purpose, meaning. This is not withdrawal, it is refinement. God is aligning your desires with His intentions. When desires align, effort decreases and impact increases. Favor thrives in simplicity because simplicity leaves room for God to move without obstruction. There will be moments when you are called to act with courage that feels disproportionate to the situation. Trust those moments. God often uses small acts of obedience to unlock large movements of favor. What seems insignificant to you may be strategic in the spiritual realm. Do not dismiss the promptings that feel gentle yet persistent. God speaks softly, but His direction carries authority. You are also learning to forgive more deeply, not because wounds were small, but because carrying them is no longer worth the weight. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it is releasing your right to be defined by pain. Favor flows freely through a heart unburdened by resentment. Let go not for others, but for alignment with God's peace. Peace is fertile ground for favor. As favor surrounds you, your prayers will become more aligned with God's heart. You will pray less for escape and more for wisdom, less for control and more for cooperation. These prayers are powerful because they agree with God's will. Agreement accelerates movement. When your prayers echo God's intentions, answers arrive with precision. There may be seasons of solitude, even within expansion. Do not fear them. Solitude refines clarity. God often withdraws you briefly so He can speak without interruption. These moments are not isolation, they are invitation. In stillness, God strengthens resolve. In quiet, He clarifies direction. Favor does not eliminate solitude, it sanctifies it. You are becoming someone who recognizes God's faithfulness in hindsight and trusts it in advance. This trust shapes your future. It allows you to step forward without full explanation, to obey without immediate evidence, to believe without visible confirmation. This kind of faith pleases God because it rests not on circumstance but on character. There will be times when you are tempted to fear losing what God is giving you. Release that fear. Favor sustained by fear becomes fragile. Favor sustained by trust becomes enduring. God does not give and then threaten removal. He gives with intention and sustains with grace. Rest in His consistency. Your influence is increasing, even if your platform has not yet expanded. Influence begins with presence. People sense peace. They sense steadiness. They sense authenticity. These qualities open hearts before words are spoken. Favor often works quietly through presence before it manifests publicly through position. You are learning to celebrate progress without idolizing it. Gratitude keeps your heart aligned. Celebration acknowledges God's work without claiming ownership. When you celebrate rightly, favor multiplies without corrupting character. Celebrate God's faithfulness, not your performance. And know this, God is not surrounding you with favor to elevate you above others, but to position you for purpose. Favor is functional. It serves God's plan. When you remain aligned with purpose, favor remains active. When purpose drifts, favor redirects. Stay attentive to why God is blessing you. Purpose preserves humility. This season is not fleeting, it is formative. What God is building now will sustain what comes next. You are not merely receiving favor, you are learning how to live within it. That learning is priceless. It ensures that what God gives becomes legacy, not moment. Stand firm, stay open, remain teachable. God is at work in ways you cannot yet fully see, but soon you will look back and recognize this as the turning point, the moment when alignment became atmosphere and favor became surrounding. There is a sacred steadiness settling into your spirit, a calm resolve that does not depend on circumstance. God is teaching you how to remain anchored even when the ground shifts. His steadiness is not emotional numbness, it is spiritual confidence. It is the assurance that no matter how the environment changes, God remains constant. Favor rests easily on those who are not easily shaken. When storms come, you will notice that you no longer panic, you listen. You discern, you stand, you are becoming more aware of God's timing, and that awareness is reshaping your patience. You no longer measure progress only by visible results. You recognize growth in restraint, wisdom in delay, purpose in process. This awareness is a gift. Many rush ahead of God because they confuse movement with momentum. Favor teaches you the difference. Momentum comes from alignment, not activity. When you move with God, even slow steps carry power. There will be moments when you sense God asking you to release something that feels familiar but no longer fits. This release is not punishment, it is preparation. God never removes without intention to replace. What leaves your life creates room for what must arrive. Trust Him enough to let go. Favor requires trust, and trust often begins with surrender. What you release in obedience, God restores with increase. Your discernment regarding voices around you is sharpening. You are learning who brings clarity and who brings confusion, who strengthens faith and who subtly weakens it. This is not judgment, it is wisdom. Favor flourishes in healthy environments. God will guide you towards spaces that nourish what He is growing in you. Pay attention to where your peace increases. Peace is often God's confirmation. You may find yourself less reactive and more responsive. Situations that once triggered frustration now invite reflection. A shift is evidence of maturity. God is training you to respond from truth rather than emotion. Favor does not thrive in reaction, it thrives in response. Response allows God room to intervene. Reaction often closes that door. There will be moments when you sense a gentle but firm correction from God. Welcome it. Correction is proof of investment. God disciplines what He intends to preserve. Responding quickly to correction protects favor from erosion. Pride resists correction. Humility receives it and grows stronger. Choose humility. It will keep you aligned and protected. Your vision is also expanding. You are beginning to see beyond immediate needs and into long-term purpose. This expanded vision may feel overwhelming at times, but it is accompanied by grace. God never reveals more than He empowers you to carry. If He is showing you more, it is because He trusts you with it. Trust Him in return. He will guide you step by step. You may notice that gratitude now rises more naturally in your heart. You recognize small mercies, subtle shifts, quiet victories. This gratitude is powerful. It keeps your heart soft and your perspective clear. Gratitude anchors favor. It reminds you that everything flows from God, not from effort alone. Gratitude protects you from entitlement and keeps wonder alive. There will be seasons when God invites you to wait even when you feel ready. Waiting does not negate readiness, it refines it. God's delays are never denials. They are adjustments that ensure alignment. Trust that God sees what you cannot. His perspective is eternal. He prepares outcomes with precision. You are learning how to carry responsibility without anxiety. This is a rare grace. Responsibility carried with God becomes purpose, not pressure. When you feel the weight of responsibility, lean into God's presence. He does not ask you to carry alone what He intends to sustain. Favor means you are partnered, not isolated. There will be moments when you feel the urge to look ahead and wonder how everything will unfold. Release that need. God reveals direction in portions, not in full view. This keeps you dependent, attentive, and prayerful. Favor grows in dependence. Independence may look strong, but it weakens alignment. Stay close to God. Proximity brings clarity. Your obedience in small things is building momentum for larger assignments. Do not underestimate consistency. Faithfulness in what seems minor becomes the foundation for greater trust. God notices what others overlook. He honors what is done with sincerity, not spectacle. Favor responds to faithfulness. As this season unfolds, you will find yourself more at peace with who you are becoming. Comparison fades. Insecurity loosens its grip. You recognize that your journey is uniquely shaped by God's hand. This self-acceptance is not complacency, it is confidence rooted in calling. Favor flows freely when identity is secure. Remember this, God is not surrounding you with favor to rush you, pressure you, or overwhelm you. He is surrounding you to protect you, guide you, and prepare you. Favor is not noise, it is order. It brings structure to chaos and clarity to confusion. It aligns your steps with God's purpose. Even now, God is working in unseen ways, softening resistance, opening pathways, aligning hearts. You do not need to force outcomes. Trust the one who governs them. Walk forward with humility. Speak with faith. Rest with confidence. Because this season is not accidental. It is intentional. God has surrounded you with favor, not for a moment, but for a journey. And as you continue to walk with Him, you will discover that what surrounds you will also flow through you, leaving lasting impact long after the moment passes. Listen, before you scroll, before your mind drifts, before your heart shields itself, listen. God told me to warn you about your voice. Not tomorrow, not someday, now, because heaven is paying attention to what you say, and the earth is responding to what you release. You have underestimated your voice for too long, and that silence has cost more than you know. There is power resting in your voice, not because of who you are, but because of who God is and what He has placed inside you. This is not poetry, this is not exaggeration, this is a divine interruption. There are moments when God does not whisper. There are moments when He presses truth into the soul with urgency, because delay is dangerous. This is one of those moments. Your voice is not ordinary. It never was. You were not created to merely think prayers, to silently endure, to suffer quietly, or to agree inwardly while the world around you speaks louder than your faith. God formed you with a voice because He intended you to use it. What you speak does not dissolve into the air. It enters the spiritual realm. It shapes your inner world, and it sets direction for your future. You have lived seasons where you felt unseen, unheard, overlooked, and slowly, subtly, you learned to speak less. You learned to swallow words. You learned to pray quietly, to hope quietly, to believe quietly. But God never asked you to be quiet about what He put inside you. He never called you to mute faith. Silence was never meant to be your protection. Your voice was meant to be your weapon and your worship. God speaks, and things come into being. This is not symbolic, it is foundational. He did not create through effort. He did not create through struggle. He spoke. Light did not argue. Order did not delay. Creation obeyed because His voice carries authority. And here is the truth that shakes the soul. You were made in His image, and He entrusted you with a voice that carries influence, alignment, and consequence. Not equal to His, but derived from Him. When your voice aligns with His will, it does not return empty. You have wondered why certain battles linger, why cycles repeat, why fear keeps knocking, why doors feel heavy. And God says, what have you been saying? Not just publicly, but privately. Not just out loud, but consistently. Words are seeds. They are not harmless. They are not neutral. They either agree with God or they resist Him. Every time you speak, you are either reinforcing heaven's agenda or strengthening the very thing you are praying against. There are people who pray for change and then speak defeat. They ask God for freedom and then confess bondage. They ask for healing and then announce sickness. They ask for provision and then declare lack. And they do not realize that their voice is divided. God is not mocked, but He is also not overridden. He honors alignment. He responds to faith that is spoken, not hidden. Faith was never meant to be silent. Belief that never finds expression becomes fragile. God designed faith to be released to the mouth because words create movement. When you speak what God says, you give the invisible permission to become visible. When you agree with God out loud, you invite His power to stand with your declaration. There is a reason the enemy has tried to make you doubt your voice. There is a reason fear tightens your throat when you try to speak truth. There is a reason shame whispers that you should stay quiet. It is not because your voice is weak. It is because it is dangerous to darkness. The enemy does not waste energy silencing people who have nothing to release. He targets voices that can shift atmospheres. You have spoken carelessly in the past, and you have also stayed silent when you should have spoken. God is not condemning you, He is awakening you. This is not about guilt, it is about responsibility. Your voice has been waiting for instruction, for permission, for alignment. And God is saying, now I am giving you clarity. Use it. There are words God placed inside you that were meant to break generational patterns. But they remained unspoken, and the pattern continued. There were declarations meant to protect your household, but silence delayed the covering. There were moments when fear spoke first, and you agreed with it, and it shaped the outcome. Not because God failed, but because your voice was absent. Do not misunderstand this. God is sovereign. He does not depend on you, but He chooses to work through willing vessels. He chooses agreement. He chooses participation. He chooses voices that echo His heart. When you speak His truth, you become a conduit, not a source. The power is not yours, but the release is through you. Some of you were taught that humility means staying quiet. But humility is not silence. Humility is obedience. If God puts a word in your mouth and you withhold it out of fear, that is not humility, it is hesitation. And hesitation has kept blessings on hold longer than opposition ever could. Your voice was designed to establish boundaries in the Spirit. When you say no with conviction, heaven backs it. When you declare what God has promised, the atmosphere shifts. When you rebuke what does not belong, it loses permission to stay. But when you say nothing, confusion fills the gap. God did not give you a voice so you could narrate your pain endlessly. He gave you a voice so you could speak over it. He did not give you a voice so you could rehearse fear. He gave you a voice so you could confront it. He did not give you a voice to echo the world. He gave you a voice to echo Him. There is a weight to your words that you have not fully recognized. Conversations you dismissed as casual carry spiritual consequence. Jokes you laughed off planted doubt. Complaints you normalized reinforced despair. God is not fragile, but alignment matters. What you repeatedly say becomes what you repeatedly experience. You are not powerless. You never were. But power unused feels like absence. And God is restoring your awareness. He is reminding you that your voice is not background noise in your life story. It is a driving force. There are seasons where God allows silence to teach listening. But this is not that season. This is a season of declaration. This is a season where your voice must rise, not in arrogance, but in agreement, not in anger, but in authority, not in chaos, but in clarity. God is calling you to speak life where death has been tolerated, to speak peace where anxiety has been normalized, to speak truth where lies have settled comfortably. You are not called to shout at people, you are called to speak with heaven. Some of you have been waiting for a sign. This is the sign. The resistance you feel when you try to speak is the confirmation that what you carry matters. The fear is not proof that you are wrong. It is proof that the moment is significant. Your voice carries memory. It carries intention. It carries direction. When you wake up and declare the day aligned with God's will, you step into it differently. When you speak gratitude before you see results, you train your spirit to expect God's faithfulness. When you speak truth in the middle of uncertainty, you anchor yourself to something unshakable. God is not impressed by volume, but He honors conviction. A whisper spoken in faith carries more weight than a shout filled with doubt. This is not about performance, it is about posture. Your heart aligned with His will gives your voice credibility in the Spirit. You do not need perfect words. You need surrendered words. God does not require eloquence, He requires agreement. When your voice reflects trust, heaven moves. There are people connected to your obedience who will never hear God the way you do. Your voice was meant to carry hope into rooms where despair dominates. Your words were meant to remind others of God's nearness. But if you stay quiet, they remain hungry. This is not pressure, this is purpose. God is not burdening you, He is inviting you. He is saying, speak with me, not about me. Speak my will, not your fear. Speak life, not survival. The reason this message feels intense is because the season is critical. You are standing at a threshold, and what you speak now will shape what opens next. God is giving you authority, but authority must be exercised. You have survived storms silently, but God says survival is not the goal anymore. Expression is, declaration is, alignment is. The next level of your walk with God will require your voice. Do not wait until everything looks right to speak. Speak so things can become right. Do not wait until fear leaves to declare faith. Speak faith until fear leaves. Do not wait until you feel strong. Speak strength and watch it rise. Your voice is not just sound, it is agreement. And agreement with God releases momentum. Heaven is not asking for perfection. Heaven is waiting for participation. And understand this deeply, the moment you begin to treat your voice as sacred, your inner world will start to reorder itself. Confusion loses its grip when truth is spoken with clarity. Fear weakens when confronted by faith-filled words. Your soul responds to your own declarations before the world ever does. God designed it this way so that you would not live at the mercy of circumstance, but under the authority of alignment. There are words you speak that your spirit recognizes immediately. They settle something inside you. They bring stillness where there was restlessness. That is not imagination, it is resonance. When your voice echoes God's will, your spirit stands at attention. It remembers who you are. It remembers who He is. And suddenly, strength returns without explanation. You must also understand that silence can become agreement if it lingers too long. What you tolerate verbally begins to shape what you accept spiritually. God is not asking you to argue with every thought or react to every challenge, but He is calling you to be intentional, to speak deliberately, to choose words that build internal alignment instead of emotional chaos. There will be moments when speaking feels costly, when your voice shakes, when doubt rises as soon as the words leave your mouth. Do not retreat in those moments. That trembling is not weakness, it is transition. You are stepping out of old habits of silence into a posture of authority, and every shift carries resistance at first. God is teaching you that courage is not the absence of fear, but obedience in its presence. When you speak despite uncertainty, you tell your soul that God's word outranks your emotions, and emotions, powerful as they feel, were never meant to lead. Your voice was meant to answer to truth, not react to feelings. There are declarations that will feel strange at first because they stretch you beyond what you have seen. But faith is not built on evidence, it is built on trust. God is not asking you to deny reality, He is asking you to declare His reality over it, to speak what He has promised, even when your eyes are still adjusting. You will notice something shift when you stop speaking from exhaustion and start speaking from conviction. Complaints drain you because they rehearse powerlessness. Declarations strengthen you because they reinforce alignment. God is not asking you to ignore pain. He is teaching you to frame it through faith instead of fear. Some of the battles you have been fighting internally were never meant to be silent. They required confrontation, not contemplation. There are thoughts that must be spoken against, not reasoned with endlessly. God has given you a voice so that truth can interrupt lies decisively. When you speak truth consistently, your inner atmosphere changes. Peace becomes familiar. Discernment sharpens. Your reactions slow down because your foundation is steadier. This is not emotional suppression. It is spiritual order, and order always produces clarity. God also reminds you that your voice is not only for moments of struggle, it is equally powerful in moments of gratitude. Thanksgiving spoken aloud multiplies awareness of God's faithfulness. Praise verbalized shifts focus from what is missing to what is present. Gratitude spoken consistently trains your heart to recognize God's hand even in ordinary moments. You are not meant to live spiritually reactive, only speaking when things fall apart. God invites you into a life of intentional alignment, where your voice sets the tone rather than and chases the chaos, where your words prepare the ground instead of responding to the storm. There will be seasons where God asks you to speak promises over long stretches of waiting. This is not punishment, it is preparation. Waiting reveals what you truly believe. Your voice during delay exposes whether your trust is circumstantial or rooted. And God strengthens those who remain aligned even when progress feels slow. Do not measure the effectiveness of your words by immediate results. Some declarations work beneath the surface long before they appear outwardly. God is not limited by time, and neither is His word. What you speak in faith today may be shaping outcomes you have not yet reached. Your consistency matters more than your intensity. One emotional declaration followed by weeks of silence does less than steady alignment spoken day after day. God honors perseverance. He responds to voices that return to Him repeatedly, not just dramatically. You will also discover that speaking God's truth refines you. It exposes contradictions between belief and behavior. It invites growth. When your words begin to align with God's will, your actions naturally follow. Transformation becomes inevitable because alignment creates momentum. This is why the enemy fights your voice so persistently. He knows that a believer who speaks with conviction cannot remain stagnant. Words pull the heart forward. Declarations refuse stagnation. Silence keeps things comfortable, but comfort was never your calling. God is not calling you to be loud. He is calling you to be clear. Clear about what you believe. Clear about who you trust. Clear about where your hope is anchored. Clarity carries authority, and authority invites peace. As you continue, you will notice your prayers changing. They will become less desperate and more grounded, less anxious and more assured. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because your voice has learned where to stand. And when opposition comes, as it always does. You will not be shaken as easily. You will have already spoken alignment before resistance arrives. You will recognize the challenge without being consumed by it. Your voice will remind you that God remains sovereign regardless of circumstance. Let your words become a place your soul can return to when everything feels unstable. Let your voice be a reminder of truth when emotions fluctuate. Let what you say anchor you rather than exhaust you. God is faithful to those who honor what He has entrusted to them. And He has entrusted you with a voice for a reason, not for noise, not for performance, but for alignment, authority, and spiritual clarity. Do not diminish what God has given you. Do not postpone obedience. Do not wait for perfect confidence. Speak now with reverence, with faith, with trust. Because every time you speak in alignment with God, something shifts, sometimes within you first, sometimes around you, but always with purpose. And that purpose is unfolding. Even now, as your voice rises into the space it was always meant to occupy, and there is another depth God wants you to grasp, one that many never reach because they stop too soon. Your voice does not only shape what happens around you, it shapes what happens within you when no one else is listening. The words you speak in private are often more powerful than the ones spoken in public. God hears but soul is trained by the quiet ones. When you speak in solitude, when no applause is possible, when no one is watching, alignment is tested. And God treasures those moments, because what you say when you are alone reveals what truly governs you. Fear performs loudly, but faith speaks consistently, even in silence-filled rooms. God is listening not for volume, but for surrender. There are nights when anxiety presses heavily, when thoughts race, when rest feels distant. Those are not moments to retreat inward endlessly. Those are moments for gentle but firm declaration. Not emotional outbursts, not frantic words, but steady truth spoken with trust. Your voice, even whispered, can calm storms inside you because God designed truth to restore order. You may not realize it yet, but your voice has already carried you through more than you remember. There were times you spoke courage before you felt it, times you declared endurance before you saw relief, times you affirmed trust while uncertainty lingered. Those words were not wasted. They became stepping stones beneath your feet when the ground felt unstable. God is showing you that maturity in faith is not measured by how little you feel, but by how faithfully you speak. Feelings rise and fall, but truth remains. And your voice is the bridge between what you feel and what you choose to believe. When you speak truth, you teach your emotions where to stand. There is also restraint God is teaching you, knowing when to speak and when to remain still. Authority does not argue unnecessarily. Wisdom does not explain itself to resistance. Some words are not meant to be released into every space. Discernment guards your voice so that it remains effective rather than depleted. God does not want your voice scattered. He wants it intentional, focused, rooted. Words spoken without alignment lose power, but words spoken with purpose carry weight long after they leave your mouth. This is why listening to God becomes as important as speaking for Him. You cannot echo what you have not received. As you grow in this awareness, you will notice your language changing, not because you are forcing it, but because your heart is being refined. You will speak less from impulse and more from conviction, less from reaction and more from discernment. This is not restriction, it is freedom. Because clarity eliminates confusion, God is also preparing you for moments when your voice will be needed urgently, times when hesitation could cost peace, times when truth must be spoken gently but firmly. Your preparation now determines your confidence then. Faith practiced daily becomes instinctive when pressure rises. Do not underestimate the quiet discipline of consistent alignment. Speaking truth daily, even when nothing dramatic happens, builds a foundation that cannot be shaken easily. When storms come, you will not scramble for words. They will already be within reach, because you have trained your voice to respond to God. There will be moments when your words challenge you as much as they challenge anything else. When speaking faith requires you to let go of familiar despair. When declaring trust means releasing control. These moments feel uncomfortable because growth stretches what is familiar. But God does not stretch you to harm you. He stretches you to prepare you. Your voice also carries legacy. What you speak repeatedly becomes what you pass on. Faith spoken becomes faith modeled. Trust declared becomes trust demonstrated. Even when you think no one is listening, the atmosphere remembers. God weaves obedience into outcomes you may never fully witness, but they will matter. God is not rushing you, but He is inviting you forward. This is not about becoming someone new overnight. It is about becoming more aligned day by day. Every word spoken in agreement with Him strengthens that alignment. Every declaration rooted in trust reinforces that posture. You are not late. You are not behind. You are awakening. An awakening often feels unsettling before it feels empowering. Old habits resist change. Old patterns protest disruption. But God's truth remains steady, calling you upward, drawing your voice into clarity. Let your words become a place of refuge for your own heart. Let your voice remind you of God's faithfulness when memory falters. Let what you say be an anchor when emotions try to drift, because God has not only given you breath, He has given you responsibility. And that responsibility is not heavy when carried with trust. It is liberating, it is clarifying, it is life-giving. And now God draws your attention even deeper to a truth that reshapes how you see yourself when no one affirms you and no one applauds your faith. Your voice is not validated by response. It is validated by obedience. Whether the room listens or resists, whether silence answers back or circumstances remain unchanged, your responsibility is not the outcome, it is the alignment. God measures faithfulness differently than the world measures success. There will be times when you speak and note the NG appears to move. Do not misinterpret stillness as failure. God often works in layers unseen before He reveals change in form. Roots grow in darkness long before fruit appears in light. Your words may feel like they disappear into space, but God gathers them with intention. Nothing spoken in faith is lost. This is where endurance is refined. Not dramatic endurance, not emotional persistence, but quiet consistency. God trusts voices that return to Him day after day without demanding immediate proof. Trust matures when praise remains steady in waiting, when truth is spoken, even when progress feels slow. That kind of faith reshapes the soul. You are learning that authority is not rushed. It is established. It settles into you gradually as your voice aligns more deeply with God's heart. Over time, you will notice that fewer words carry more weight. Your presence will feel steadier. Your confidence will no longer be fragile. This is not pride, it is rootedness. God is also healing how you hear your own voice. There were seasons when you doubted yourself, when you dismissed your words as insignificant, when you learned to distrust what rose within you. God is restoring that trust, not so you rely on yourself, but so you recognize when He is speaking through you. There is a difference between speaking from ego and speaking from surrender. Ego seeks control. Surrender releases trust. God does not need you to convince anyone. He needs you to remain faithful. When your voice flows from surrender, it carries peace, even when it confronts. It carries clarity without force. You may find that some relationships shift as your voice strengthens. This is not loss, it is alignment. When you stop shrinking, what relied on your silence becomes uncomfortable. God is not removing people to punish you. He is making room for environments that can hold who you are becoming. Do not be afraid of this refining. Growth often rearranges familiar patterns, but God is careful. He does not uproot without purpose. He does not prune without promise. Every adjustment is intentional, guiding you toward a life that reflects truth rather than fear. There will be moments when you are tempted to return to old ways of speaking, sarcasm to mask pain, silence to avoid conflict, agreement to keep peace. Pause in those moments. Ask yourself whose voice you are honoring. God is teaching you that peace built on silence is fragile, but peace built on truth endures. As you continue, you will sense a deeper reverence forming within you. You will become more mindful of your words, not out of anxiety, but out of honor. Honor for God, honor for your soul, honor for the authority entrusted to you. This awareness is not restrictive, it is empowering. Your voice is becoming a place of meeting between heaven and earth, not because you are extraordinary, but because God is faithful to ordinary obedience. He specializes in taking what seems small and filling it with purpose. Even now, something is settling inside you, a quiet resolve, a steady confidence, not loud, not forced, but grounded. This is the fruit of alignment beginning to mature. God is establishing you from the inside out. And now God brings you to a quieter, weightier understanding. One that does not shout, but settles. Your voice is not only meant to release words, it is meant to carry truth shaped by time with Him. Authority deepens when it is seasoned, when it has passed through waiting, surrender, and trust. God is not hurried in forming voices. He is precise. There is a depth that only comes when your words have been tested by disappointment and still remain faithful. When you have spoken hope and watched delay linger, yet refuse to withdraw trust. That kind of voice carries gravity. It does not need to convince, it resonates. It carries the mark of endurance, and heaven recognizes it. God is teaching you that spiritual strength is not loudness, it is steadiness. A steady voice can calm storms faster than frantic declarations. When your words are anchored in God's character rather than your circumstances, they land differently. They do not tremble. They do not chase approval. They stand. You are also learning that your voice shapes how you listen. The way you speak trains your hearing. When you speak truth consistently, your discernment sharpens. You become more sensitive to what aligns with God and what subtly resists Him. Clarity increases because alignment clears the noise. There will be moments when God asks you to speak gently where you once would have spoken harshly, and moments when He asks you to speak firmly where you once would have avoided tension. This is wisdom at work. Authority is not rigid, it is responsive to God's leading. The same voice that comforts can also correct when guided by love. Do not fear these adjustments. They are signs of maturity, not inconsistency. God is shaping your voice so it reflects His heart more accurately. Less reaction, more revelation. Less impulse, more intention. This refinement protects both you and those who hear you. You may begin to notice that your words carry peace, even when they confront. That is not coincidence. Truth spoken from alignment does not wound, it awakens. God does not use your voice to crush, but to clarify, to illuminate what was hidden, to invite transformation rather than enforce change. And there will be times when God asks you to speak less than you want to, silence when instructed, is also obedience. A restrained voice can be as powerful as a declared one. Knowing when to pause guards your authority. God is teaching you balance so that your words remain effective rather than diluted. Your voice is becoming trustworthy, first to God, then to your own soul. You will feel less need to explain yourself, less urgency to defend. When alignment is strong, validation becomes unnecessary. Peace replaces striving. Confidence replaces comparison. God is not shaping you for a moment, He is shaping you for longevity. Voices built on emotion burn out. Voices built on alignment endure. This is why the process has been slow at times. God was strengthening your foundation so that what you speak can stand over time. There is also a deeper humility forming within you. Not the humility that shrinks, but the humility that listens closely. You are becoming more aware that every word is an opportunity to agree with God. This awareness does not burden you, it frees you from careless living. As this continues, your life will begin to reflect your declarations more clearly. Not because you are controlling outcomes, but because alignment produces consistency. What you say and how you live will increasingly match. Integrity will feel natural rather than forced. And when challenges rise again and they wow ill, you will meet them differently. Not with panic, not with silence, but with a voice that has learned where to stand. A voice that knows who God is even when circumstances try to argue otherwise. This is the voice God is cultivating in you. Steady, faithful, aware, rooted, not perfect but aligned, not dramatic but powerful. So remain attentive, remain surrendered, remain willing. Let your voice continue to grow into what God intended it to be. Not a reaction to life, but a response to Him. And as you walk forward with this awareness, you will find that your words no longer feel like effort. They will feel like agreement. And agreement with God has always been the beginning of transformation. So hear this as the final settling of truth, not as an ending, but as a seal. God did not awaken your awareness to your voice by accident. He did not stir this conviction to leave you unchanged. What He reveals, He intends to activate. What He entrusts, He expects to be honored. Your voice was never meant to disappear into fear, fatigue, or familiarity. It was designed to stand, to carry faith when emotions falter, to carry truth when confusion rises, to carry hope when the path ahead feels unclear. God placed breath in you, knowing exactly what He would ask you to speak in every season of your life. From this moment forward, let your words be chosen, not careless. Let them be aligned, not reactive. Let them rise from trust, not pressure. You do not need to force authority. Obedience will carry it for you. You do not need to strive for power. Alignment will release it naturally. When you speak, remember who you belong to. When you declare, remember who governs the outcome. When you grow quiet, let it be because God has instructed restraint, not because fear has taken control. Your voice is safest when it rests in surrender and strongest when it echoes truth. There will be days when speaking feels easy and days when it feels costly. Speak anyway, not from emotion, but from conviction. Not to control, but to agree. God does not ask you to master the future. He asks you to honor the present with faith. And if you ever forget, if you ever hesitate, return to this truth. God trusted you with a voice because He knew what He placed within you could carry His will. He does not waste gifts. He does not miscalculate vessels. He is intentional. So go forward steady, not rushed, bold, not reckless, faithful, not fearful. Let your voice reflect the God who speaks life, establishes order, and remains faithful through every season. And as you continue to speak in alignment with Him, you will not only hear His guidance more clearly, you will live it more fully. Because a voice surrendered to God does not just speak truth, it becomes a living witness of it. And let this be the final echo that stays with you when the moment passes and life resumes its noise. You are never speaking into emptiness. God is always present, always attentive, always responsive to a heart that chooses alignment over fear. Even when your voice feels small, heaven hears it clearly. Even when your words feel simple, God understands their intent. Do not wait for a perfect moment to speak what is true. The perfect moment is obedience. Each time you choose alignment, you reinforce the path God is shaping beneath your feet. Each time you speak with trust, you strengthen the bridge between promise and fulfillment. Nothing offered to God in faith is ever wasted. There will be seasons ahead that test what you have learned here. Let them. Tests do not come to destroy what is real, but to reveal it. When pressure rises, let your voice return to truth. When uncertainty whispers, let your words answer with trust. When silence tempts retreat, let obedience guide your response. Carry this awareness gently but firmly. Let it inform how you wake, how you walk, how you respond. Let your voice remain anchored even when emotions shift. God is faithful to complete what He begins, and He will continue to guide you as long as you remain willing to listen and speak in agreement. Now go forward with peace settled in you, not because everything is resolved, but because your voice is aligned. And alignment with God has always been enough to carry you through whatever comes next. Listen carefully, because this moment is not accidental. Something holy is pressing against your spirit right now. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. There is a stirring you cannot explain. A quiet ache mixed with expectation. A longing that has refused to die, even after disappointment tried to bury it. That is not weakness. That is not loneliness. That is God speaking to the deepest place in you, declaring that your season of waiting is not empty and your season of preparation has not been wasted. Heaven has been moving while you thought nothing was happening. God has been arranging what you could never force, aligning what you could never control, and guarding what you could never protect. And today, that truth is breaking through your doubt like light through a sealed door. You must understand this with clarity and reverence. God does not create desire without purpose. He does not awaken hope without intention. He does not allow longing to live in the heart unless He has already prepared its fulfillment in His will. What you have been carrying is not a random emotional hunger, it is a divine signal. God Himself placed it within you, and God Himself is responsible for answering it. That is why the pain of waiting has felt so intense. You are not waiting for a person alone. You are waiting for alignment. You are waiting for timing. You are waiting for something sacred to cross from the unseen into your life. And that crossing is closer than you think. There are moments when God works loudly, and there are seasons when He works in silence. This has been a silent season. Quiet, hidden, uncelebrated. You watched others move ahead while you remained still. You questioned whether you were forgotten. But silence is not absence. Silence is construction. While you were praying through tears, God was shaping character. While you were learning to stand alone, God was building the foundation required for covenant. While you were asking why it was taking so long, God was protecting you from unions that would have looked right but drained your soul. God never delays out of neglect. He delays out of wisdom. Hear this deeply. Marriage is not merely companionship. It is assignment. It is not escape. It is responsibility. It is not rescue. It is partnership. God does not send a divine partner prematurely, because premature unions produce permanent wounds. So He waited until your discernment grew stronger than your desperation. He waited until your spirit learned to listen before your heart learned to cling. He waited until you could love without losing yourself, and give without abandoning your calling. What felt like rejection was refinement. What felt like emptiness was preparation. What felt like delay was divine intelligence. There are prayers you prayed that God intentionally did not answer because the version of you who prayed them could not sustain the answer. But now something has shifted. You are not the same person you were when you first asked. Your voice carries weight now. Your faith has muscle now. Your obedience has depth now. And because you changed, the prayer is being revisited in heaven, not as a wish, but as a request aligned with God's timing and design. The atmosphere around your life is changing because you are ready to steward what is coming. God is not sending confusion. God is not sending compromise. God is not sending someone to fill a void. He is sending a divine partner. Someone who will recognize your spirit before they admire your appearance. Someone who will honor your calling instead of competing with it. Someone whose presence brings peace instead of anxiety, clarity instead of chaos. This union will not require you to shrink, hide, or perform. It will call you higher, not smaller. It will strengthen your devotion, not distract it. This is not a relationship built on emotional survival. It is a covenant rooted in divine purpose. You may have grown accustomed to protecting your heart, building walls so high that even hope struggled to climb them. That was necessary for a season, but it is not permanent. God is gentle, and He will not break down your defenses violently. He will melt them with safety. He will introduce connection without pressure, familiarity without danger, and intimacy without fear. When this divine partner enters your life, it will not feel rushed. It will feel recognized. Your spirit will know before your mind understands. There will be a calm assurance that does not need constant reassurance, a steady knowing that does not demand signs because peace itself becomes the confirmation. God has been observing your private obedience, the prayers you whispered when no one was watching, the restraint you practiced when you could have settled, the faith you carried when hope felt unreasonable. None of it was wasted. Heaven records what people overlook. God honors what the world dismisses. And now that honor is taking shape. What is coming will not embarrass your faith. It will validate it. What is coming will not mock your patience. It will reward it. What is company will not echo your past disappointments. It will silence them. There is something sacred about divine timing. When God sends what He has prepared, it arrives whole. Not perfect, but whole. Not flawless, but aligned. You will not need to convince this person of your worth. You will not need to chase consistency or beg for clarity. Mutual recognition will replace confusion. Shared values will replace emotional instability. Purpose will replace fantasy. This connection will feel different because it is governed by God, not driven by fear or urgency. You will not be entering a union to complete yourself. You will be entering a covenant as someone already made whole by God's presence. Let go of the narrative that time has passed you by. Time does not outrun God's promises. Seasons change, but divine intention remains. God is not limited by age, history, or circumstance. He is not intimidated by your past or your questions. He is not confused by your complexity. He designed you intentionally, and He is fully capable of matching that design with someone who honors it. You are not too late. You are not behind. You are exactly where obedience placed you. What is forming now is not visible yet, but it is inevitable. God is orchestrating paths, adjusting decisions, softening hearts, and creating intersections you could never engineer. There are conversations about to happen that will shift everything. There are introductions that will feel ordinary, but carry eternal consequence. There are moments approaching that will redefine your understanding of connection. Stay attentive, not anxious. Stay open, not desperate. Faith is not passive. it is receptive. It stands ready without fault. Are seeing outcomes. Do not underestimate the power of your preparation. Every boundary you honored, every moment you chose integrity over attention, every time you walked away from what felt good but was not God, those choices have positioned you. Divine partnership requires spiritual alignment, and alignment requires discipline. God has been shaping you into someone who can love without losing identity, commit without controlling, and walk in unity without surrendering truth. This is not accidental. This is intentional formation. When this divine partner arrives, it will not pull you away from God. It will push you closer. Prayer will deepen, not diminish. Purpose will expand, not shrink. You will discover that true companionship amplifies devotion rather than competes with it. That is how you will know this is God's doing. Anything that distances you from divine presence is not divine provision. God's gifts never replace Him, they reveal Him. You have learned to trust God in solitude, and that trust will now become the foundation of partnership. The love coming into your life will not be built on fear of abandonment or need for validation. It will be built on shared reverence for God's authority and guidance. This is the kind of union that withstands pressure because it is anchored beyond emotion. When challenges arise, and they will, you will not face them as adversaries, but as partners submitted to a higher wisdom. God is not sending perfection. He is sending alignment. He is sending someone who is also in process, also surrendered, also listening. Two imperfect people under perfect guidance create a union that grows stronger through humility and obedience. This is not about fairy tales or fantasy. This is about covenant, daily choice, mutual honor, and shared submission to God's leading. That is what makes it powerful. That is what makes it lasting. If you feel both excitement and fear, that is natural. Sacred things often awaken reverence before comfort. Do not let fear interpret what faith recognizes. God is not setting you up for loss. He is positioning you for legacy. This partnership will not only bless you, it will impact others. There is purpose beyond romance, influence beyond affection, and calling beyond companionship tied to this union. God thinks generationally. What He joins with intention that outlives the moment. Stay faithful in the small things. Stay obedient in the quiet days. Stay discerning without becoming closed. God often sends answers wrapped in simplicity. What changes your life may arrive without drama, without spectacle, without announcement. But when it does, your spirit will rest instead of striving. And rest is the language of God's confirmation. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not waiting in vain. Heaven is precise and God is faithful. What He has promised, He will fulfill, not because of your effort, but because of His nature. Trust the process. Honor the preparation. Receive the promise. God is sending your divine partner not to complete you, but to walk with you in purpose, unity, and sacred alignment. And when it happens, you will look back and realize that nothing was late, nothing was wasted, and nothing was random. It was God, always God. Even now, as you listen, God is working beneath the surface of your ordinary days. While routines repeat and hours seem predictable, in intention is threading itself through your life with precision. God is not confined to moments you label as spiritual. He moves through conversations, decisions, pauses, and even delays. What appears uneventful to you is often sacred ground to Him. He is arranging the unseen with care, so that when what He has promised enters your life, it arrives without confusion, without collision, without regret. Nothing God sends needs rescuing later. What He releases comes with grace to sustain it. There is a difference between wanting companionship and being prepared for covenant. God has been teaching you that difference through experience, restraint, and growth. You learn that attraction without alignment drains the soul. You discover that attention without intention creates noise but not nourishment. These lessons were not meant to harden you, they were meant to refine your discernment. God was sharpening your ability to recognize what carries His fingerprint. That is why you no longer feel impressed by surface level connection. Your spirit has matured, and maturity changes what satisfies you. God has also been healing places you did not know were wounded. He allowed time to pass not to punish you, but to restore you. Some scars needed silence. Some fears needed distance. Some patterns needed to be broken without explanation. God works deeply, not quickly. He values wholeness over speed. If He had rushed the process, you might have entered a union carrying unresolved pain that would have demanded payment from someone who did not cause it. God loves you too much to allow that. So He healed you first. This is the beauty of divine preparation. It does not announce itself, but it transforms you. One day you realized you were no longer begging God to hurry. You began trusting Him to be precise. You stopped measuring your worth by your waiting and started measuring your growth by your obedience. That shift matters. Heaven responds to alignment, not anxiety. When you surrendered the timeline, you stepped into readiness. And readiness attracts what God has already approved. What God is bringing into your life will recognize your value without being taught. You will not need to explain your boundaries or defend your devotion. There will be an unspoken understanding because God Himself will be the common language. This connection will not be built on assumptions or illusions, but on truth revealed over time. It will grow through consistency, not intensity, through faithfulness, not fantasy. God builds relationships the same way He builds lives, layer by layer, with wisdom and intention. Do not confuse slowness with uncertainty. God often moves steadily to establish permanence. What lasts does not rush its foundation. When this divine partner begins walking beside you, it will not feel like pressure to perform or impress. It will feel like permission to be authentic. You will not be chosen for who you pretend to be, but honored for who God has shaped you into. That kind of recognition quiets insecurity. It invites trust. It allows love to grow without fear. God is also protecting what is coming by guarding your present. There are connections that did not work out because they would have introduced confusion, distraction, or compromise at the wrong time. God blocked what you prayed would work because He saw what you could not. Rejection was not a verdict on your worth. It was evidence of divine oversight. God was intercepting paths that would have taken you away from His best. Every closed door carried mercy, even when it hurt. As you move forward, resist the urge to romanticize the past or idealize what is ahead. God meets you in the present. He speaks now, He leads now. The future He is preparing will unfold as you stay faithful where you are. You do not need to rehearse what could go wrong or imagine what must go right. God does not require you to manage outcomes, only to remain obedient and attentive. Trust is your responsibility, fulfillment is His. This coming union will teach you new dimensions of prayer. You will learn to pray together, not only in moments of need, but in moments of gratitude. You will discover that agreement before God carries power beyond individual faith. Shared submission creates spiritual strength. When two lives are aligned under God's authority, peace becomes their atmosphere and wisdom becomes their guide. This is not perfection. It is partnership under divine leadership. There will be days when love feels effortless and days when it requires intention. God is not threatened by either. He supplies grace for both. He does not expect you to rely on emotion alone. He invites you to rely on His presence. That is how unity endures. When feelings fluctuate, commitment anchored in God remains steady. This is how covenant survives seasons, by drawing strength from the one who never changes. Let your heart remain soft without becoming unguarded. Let your faith remain strong without becoming rigid. God leads gently, but He leads clearly. Pay attention to peace, not excitement alone, not urgency alone, but peace that settles the soul. God's guidance does not shout over your discernment, it resonates within it. When something is from Him, clarity replaces confusion and assurance grows with time instead of diminishing. You are stepping into a chapter that will require humility and courage. To love deeply is to risk vulnerability. God will not expose you to harm, but He will invite you into trust. Trust is not blindness, it is confidence in His character. As you follow His leading, He will continue to guide each step, adjust each moment, and correct each course. You will not walk alone into this new season. God goes before you, beside you, and within you. Remember this always. What God joins, He sustains. What He begins, He completes. Your story is not missing a chapter. It is unfolding at the right pace. Stay faithful, stay receptive, stay anchored in God's presence. The promise is not fragile, it is secure in His hands. And when the moment arrives, when paths finally intersect and purpose aligns, you will recognize it not by noise, but by peace, not by urgency, but by assurance, not by fear, but by a deep, steady knowing that this too is God. There is a sacred strength forming in you that did not exist before this season. God has been teaching you how to stand without leaning, how to trust without grasping, how to hope without demanding timelines. This strength is quiet, but it is unshakable. It is the kind of strength that does not announce itself, yet it changes the atmosphere when it enters a room. God has been developing this depth because the partnership He is sending requires maturity, not performance. Shallow strength collapses under responsibility. Thank you, but deep strength carries weight with grace. You are learning that love governed by God does not enslave the heart, it frees it. It does not drain identity, it sharpens it. God never intended union to replace personal devotion, He designed it to expand it. That is why He insisted on growing you first. He wanted your faith to be rooted, not borrowed. He wanted your convictions to be tested, not theoretical. When the divine partner arrives, you will not be borrowing faith from each other, you will be bringing faith together. That union carries power. God is also teaching you patience that is not passive but purposeful. You are no longer waiting with folded arms, you are waiting with open hands. You are building, healing, learning, and becoming. This waiting has posture. It is active trust. It is obedience without applause, and God sees it. He honors faith that persists even when there is no visible evidence. That kind of faith moves heaven quietly and effectively. There will come a moment when you realize the waiting shaped your voice. You will speak with clarity instead of confusion, with wisdom instead of urgency. You will no longer ask questions born out of fear, but questions shaped by discernment. God has been training your inner ear to recognize truth without noise. That sensitivity matters. It protects the future He is releasing into your hands. Do not underestimate how deeply God cares about the details of your life. He is not distant from your desire for partnership. He is invested in it, but He refuses to answer it in a way that harms you. God's love is not indulgent, it is intentional. He chooses what is best, not what is fastest, and what is best often requires silence, stretching, and surrender before it arrives. The love God is preparing will not be built on constant affirmation, but on steady faithfulness. It will not need to be dramatic to be meaningful. It will grow through shared obedience, mutual respect, and consistent truth. God is not impressed by intensity. He values integrity. That is the soil where lasting union grows. When love is rooted in integrity, it does not fracture under pressure. It deepens. You may still have moments where doubt whispers questions into your quiet thoughts. That does not disqualify you. Faith is not the absence of questions. It is the decision to trust God's character above them. Bring those questions to Him. He is not threatened by your honesty. He responds to surrender, not perfection. Each time you choose to trust Him again, you strengthen the foundation for what is coming. God is also preparing you to receive without guilt. Some people struggle more with receiving than with waiting. You have learned to give, to sacrifice, to endure. Now God is teaching you how to receive blessing without apology, love without fear, and joy without suspicion. What He sends is not meant to be analyzed into exhaustion. It is meant to be stewarded with gratitude. Let your heart remain open enough to receive what God has already decided to give. When the time comes, you will notice that peace does not leave when questions arise. That is important. Peace that remains is evidence of God's presence. Temporary excitement fades, divine peace stays. This peace will guard your heart as love unfolds naturally, steadily, and securely. It will allow you to build without panic and commit without fear. God's peak. E is not passive, it is protective. Remember that covenant does not eliminate growth, it intensifies it. God will continue shaping you even after the promise manifests. He does not stop working once prayers are answered. He deepens the work. But the difference will be this: you will grow alongside someone who respects the process, honors the calling, and values obedience. Growth shared under God's guidance multiplies strength instead of draining it. You are not entering a future that requires you to abandon who you are. You are entering one that confirms it. God does not erase identity and partnership, He refines it. What He joins complements, not competes. You will not lose your voice. You will gain harmony. You will not lose your direction. You will gain alignment. This is the wisdom of God at work. There is a holy calm beginning to settle over your expectations. And that calm is not resignation, it is trust maturing. God is teaching you how to hope without tension, how to anticipate without clinging. This is the posture of someone who knows that what is promised cannot be stolen, delayed by opposition, or diminished by circumstance. When God ordains a union, no distance can cancel it, no delay can weaken it, and no past mistake can disqualify it. His will does not arrive fragile, it arrives established. You are also learning that divine love does not rush to impress, it takes time to reveal. God values revelation over attraction, depth over display. What He is sending will not overwhelm you with intensity and then disappear in inconsistency. It will unfold with wisdom, patience, and truth. Each moment will build upon the last, creating trust that is earned, not assumed. OD is intentional like that. He does not build on excitement alone, He builds on stability. There is a sacred dignity God is restoring within you. You no longer feel the need to compete for attention or prove your worth. That desperation has been replaced with assurance. You understand now that what is truly meant for you will recognize you without pursuit. God never intended you to chase what He has already assigned. What belongs to you will meet you in alignment, not in exhaustion. This understanding protects your heart and preserves your peace. God is also teaching you discernment that goes beyond emotion. You are learning to listen beneath words, to observe patterns, to sense truth without needing constant explanation. This is not suspicion, it is wisdom. Divine partnership requires discernment because it carries responsibility. God is equipping you to choose with clarity, not confusion. When the time comes, you will not be led by pressure or fantasy, but by quiet confidence anchored in God's guidance. There is a reason God has emphasized obedience so deeply in this season. Obedience aligns you with timing. It positions you where divine intersections occur naturally. You may not see how each small act of faith connects, but heaven does. God weaves obedience into outcomes. What seems unrelated now will later reveal itself as preparation. Nothing surrendered to God is ever lost. It is transformed. You will notice that your prayers have changed. They are no longer filled with urgency, but with trust. You are not asking God to convince you anymore. You are allowing Him to lead you. That shift matters. God responds powerfully to surrendered faith. When you stop demanding control, you gain clarity. When you release outcomes, you receive direction. This is how God prepares the heart for partnership. The union God is sending will require mutual humility. Pride fractures connection. Humility strengthens it. God has been softening your heart so that correction does not feel like rejection and growth does not feel like failure. This humility will allow love to deepen without defensiveness. It will create space for grace to operate freely. Where humility lives, God's presence remains. There will be moments of learning, moments of adjustment, moments where patience is required again. Do not fear that. Growth does not stop once promise arrives. God continues refining what He blesses, but this time refinement will happen in unity, not isolation. You will no longer carry the weight alone. God will use partnership as a tool for sharpening, encouraging, and strengthening both lives involved. Stay anchored in gratitude. Gratitude keeps the heart aligned with God's goodness. It prevents fear from distorting perception and pride from corrupting joy. Gratitude reminds you that everything unfolding is a gift, not an entitlement. God gives generously, but He also teaches stewardship. Love is stewarded through honor, commitment, and reverence for His design. You are not standing at the edge of uncertainty. You are standing at the threshold of fulfillment. God does not tease the faithful with false hope. He fulfills what He promises in His way and in His time. What is coming will not confuse you. It will confirm you. It will not pull you out of alignment. It will deepen it. And when it begins, you will realize that God was never late. He was precise. Remain faithful to the process. Remain sensitive to His leading. Remain confident in His character. The same God who carried you through solitude is the God who will guide you through partnership. He does not abandon His work halfway. What He has been preparing in secret will soon stand in the light, not as a surprise, but as a testimony of His wisdom, His timing, and His unfailing love. There is a quiet reverence God is cultivating within you, a reverence not born of fear, but of understanding. You are beginning to grasp that sacred things must be handled with care, that divine blessings are not rushed into or taken lightly. This awareness is part of your preparation. God is teaching you to value what He values, to approach what He gives with humility rather than entitlement. When love is received with reverence, it is protected from misuse. When it is stewarded with honor, it grows in strength. You are also learning that God's work in your life has never been isolated. Even in seasons where you felt alone, He was shaping you in relation to something greater than yourself, your choices, your healing, your obedience were never just about you. They were about alignment. God was preparing you to walk in unity without losing discernment, to love deeply without abandoning truth, to commit fully without surrendering obedience. This balance matters. It is what keeps covenant strong when circumstances shift. There is a spiritual alertness awakening in you now. You are more aware of what nurtures your soul and what quietly drains it. God has refined your sensitivity so you can protect what He entrusts to you. This awareness will guard the future He is unfolding. Divine partnership. IP requires wisdom, not suspicion, attentiveness, not fear. God is equipping you to recognize the difference. This discernment is a gift, and it will serve you well. God is also reminding you that love does not arrive to fix what is broken. It arrives to walk alongside what has been restored. That is why healing came before fulfillment. God does not use relationships as repair tools. He builds them as expressions of wholeness. You are no longer searching for completion. You are standing in completeness shaped by God's presence. From that place, love becomes an overflow rather than a necessity. That is divine order. There will be moments when gratitude overtakes you unexpectedly, when you realize how far God has brought you. You will remember prayers whispered through uncertainty, choices made without guarantees, faith exercised without applause. In those moments, humility will deepen your joy. You will understand that what is unfolding is not luck, not coincidence, not timing alone. It is faithfulness responding to faith. God honors trust that remains steady through silence. You are being taught how to listen more than you speak, how to observe before you decide. God values wisdom that waits for understanding. This patience will allow clarity to emerge naturally without pressure or confusion. Divine guidance does not demand haste. It invites attentiveness. When you move in step with God, you do not have to force progress. It unfolds. The partnership God is sending will reflect this same posture. It will not be built on assumptions or rushed conclusions. It will grow through mutual respect, honest communication, and shared submission to God's direction. Trust will be earned through consistency, not demanded through words. This kind of foundation does not crack under stress. It strengthens. God is also reminding you that joy does not eliminate responsibility, it gives it meaning. Love brings beauty, but it also requires stewardship. God will give you grace to nurture what He places in your care. He does not expect perfection, He supplies guidance. When mistakes happen, His wisdom will correct and restore. Nothing surrendered to Him remains broken. There is an assurance settling in your spirit now, a confidence that does not need constant confirmation. You are learning to rest in God's promises without interrogating them. This rest is not passive. It is anchored trust. It allows you to move forward without anxiety and to wait without despair. God's peace is doing its work. Do not rush ahead in your thoughts. Stay present. God reveals truth step by step so that growth keeps pace with blessing. What unfolds gradually becomes sustainable. What is rushed often becomes fragile. God is building something enduring, something rooted, something capable of withstanding time. That takes patience, and patience is forming beautifully within you. You are not walking toward uncertainty. You are walking with God into clarity. Each step you take in obedience sharpens your vision. Each moment of trust strengthens your foundation. What is ahead will not confuse you or overwhelm you. It will meet you where you are, supported by everything God has already done in you. Remain faithful to what God is teaching you now. These lessons are not temporary. They are lifelong wisdom. The same discernment, humility, and trust that prepared you will continue to sustain you. God does not change His methods once blessing arrives. He continues guiding, correcting, and strengthening those who remain surrendered. And when you look back, you will see that this season was not about waiting alone. It was about becoming ready, ready to receive without fear, ready to love without losing direction, ready to walk in unity without compromise. This readiness is God's work, and it is beautiful. What He has promised is approaching with intention and care, not hurried, not delayed, perfectly timed. And when it unfolds, it will stand as a quiet testimony that God's ways are higher, His wisdom is precise, and His faithfulness never fails. And now, let these truths settle deep within you. God has not been shaping you for nothing. Every season, every stretch of silence, every lesson learned in solitude has been purposeful. Nothing was random. Nothing was wasted. You were not merely waiting. You were being formed. God was aligning your heart with His wisdom, your desires with His will, and your future with His timing. What He prepares in secret always carries lasting fruit when it is revealed. As you stand here now, you are not standing empty-handed. You are standing strengthened, refined, and aware. You carry discernment where there was once confusion, peace where there was once restlessness, and trust where there was once fear. This is evidence of God's work. He does not prepare the promise before He prepares the person. And because He has prepared you, you can be confident that what is coming will be handled with wisdom, humility, and grace. Do not let impatience speak louder than faith. Do not let old disappointments rewrite what God is doing now. The same O.D. who sustained you in the waiting will sustain you in the fulfillment. He will guide each step, guard each decision, and steady your heart as the next chapter unfolds. You are not stepping into something uncertain. You are stepping into something overseen by divine authority. Remain rooted in trust. Remain sensitive to God's voice. Remain faithful to the principles He has taught you. Love that is guided by God does not weaken with time. It deepens. It does not fracture under pressure. It matures, and it does not distract from purpose. It strengthens it. This is the kind of union God establishes because it reflects His nature. When the moment arrives, you will not need to strive to believe it. Peace will confirm what words cannot explain. Your spirit will recognize alignment before your mind gathers understanding. And in that moment, you will see clearly that God's timing was not slow. It was precise. His guidance was not restrictive. It was protective. His silence was not absence. It was intention. So walk forward with confidence, not haste, with expectation, not anxiety, with faith, not fear. God is faithful to complete what He has begun. What He has ordained will arrive whole, sustained by His wisdom and anchored in His purpose. And when you look back, you will understand that every step led you exactly where you needed to be, into alignment with His will, His timing, and His unfailing love.